My conversation today is with Margaret Morford as we discuss developing managerial courage in the face of conflict, which is also the focus of our upcoming program. I have found that confrontation, or rather a lack thereof, is one of the biggest shortcomings to today's leaders. Some leaders say they're just lazy. Some hope it's just going to go away, while others figure let the other person handle it. Some even choose to put their head in the sand and pretend that there are no issues worth confronting. Bottom line, many leaders today lack the courage to confront. Courage is what I like to call the secret sauce of what separates the truly great leaders. They confront people, I found, for really two reasons. There's a problem that needs to be addressed and corrected, and they care enough to want to help the person correct it. Today, I've selected certain questions that our members have posed regarding this topic for Margaret. My hope is that these questions are going to give those interested in attending her upcoming IMS program a better understanding of what she's going to be covering and how it's going to benefit them. So why don't we go ahead and get started, Margaret?
Okay.
First question is, why is management courage so important? And can you share a personal experience regarding managerial courage that has had a profound effect on your management style?
Well, let me go back 30 years, which would tell you how profound it is. I've not forgotten this. I was between jobs, so I took a temporary job doing research for a businessman who had decided he wanted to run for mayor of our city. So I'm doing his research and his position papers, and he says something in a forum based on some research I'd done that's incorrect. The research was wrong that I had done. And of course, the newspapers just lambasted him from one end of the spectrum to the other. And I'm horrified. He didn't come back to the office and yell at me. He didn't even actually say anything to me. So I went to his office and I said, I have to apologize. The research was incorrect. And so I'm here to tender my resignation. And I didn't get any further than that. He just swept it aside and he said, Margaret, mistakes are going to be made. You need to not worry about that. And he sent me back to work. Now, when I talk about that principle where you take the bullet for somebody, he took the bullet for me. And this is in politics where they love to throw people under the bus. Not most people, when they take a bullet, it doesn't get spread across the newspapers for everybody to see. And I've never forgotten that. Now, I learned the lesson. That's part of someone taking the bullet. The person has to learn a lesson from that. If you don't think I didn't double or triple check everything I did for him after that, because I wanted him, I never wanted that to happen to him again. And sort of to finish out the story for you, he did eventually become the mayor of our city, and he went on to be a two-term, very successful governor in our state. So it's nice to see good things happen to courageous people.
That it is. Great story. Next question. In your book, Management Courage, Having the Heart of a Lion, you cover 6 principles. However, during the program, you have chosen to focus on 3 principles, which are be painfully honest, ask and give feedback, and then what you just stated, take the blame. Why have you chosen to focus on those 3?
Probably because they're the hardest ones for me, especially that first one, being painfully honest. A sentence or two into this interview, it has to be obvious from my accent that I come from the South. And in the South, we are exceedingly polite. As a matter of fact, we tell social white lies, and we tell them really easily as an excuse for not being honest. But in the business world, there's no room for social white lies. You're not doing a person any favors when you don't tell them there's an issue or there's a problem. People can't fix what you won't talk to them about. And so often, managers, particularly coworkers, people that are on a project team, just ignore that, hoping it'll get better. I think you have to assume that if people knew it was a problem, they would fix it. So you have to have the courage to say there's a problem or this isn't working. And the quintessential example of that, I had an employee bring me her annual performance review. And she sat down and she said, I want you to see this. All the way through my performance review, my manager marks me down for something I've been doing all year long that he never talked to me about. And now there it is, part of my permanent record. Margaret, why do you think you didn't tell me 12 months ago to stop doing that? I would have, and then it wouldn't be part of my performance review. Well, the answer to that is the manager lacked the courage to have that tough conversation that the employee clearly wanted, needed, and would have helped them great in their personal development.
Great advice. Looking forward to hearing more about those during your program. I know the following statement has been proven true in my professional experience, but why do you think people ask for criticism, but they only want praise?
Because they're human beings, and we all want to be told how great we are, and not that we need to change anything, because human beings don't like to change anything. Now, having said that, I need to tell you, I absolutely agree with that statement, and I am not immune to that statement. I believe in feedback, and feedback is what makes me better. As someone who does workshops and consults, unlike most people, every time I finish a workshop, I get an evaluation. So I get feedback. And I had just finished a workshop. It had 100 people in it. They were going to rate me five different questions, scale of 1 to 5. So I'm talking to my husband, and he goes, "How did your workshop go?" And I said, "I was okay. I wasn't great." And he goes, "Really? What were your marks, your evaluations?" And I said, "Well, 3 people gave me a 3. Now think about this." He says, "Well, what were the rest of your marks?" And I said, "Well, there were 4s and 5s, but 3 people gave me a 3. So I got 497 good or superior marks, and I got 3 average marks, and that's what I'm focused on. Now, here's what I do take from that. It's so easy to go, well, they're just mean, or whatever you excuse that with. So I spent some time with those 3. Now, I will tell you, one of them I thought was mean-spirited. The person said, "She shouldn't wear that dress. I don't like the dress she wore to do this workshop." But the other 2 were pretty valid criticism that I thought about. And based on that, I changed the material. Not a lot, but enough to answer what their concern was. So the next time I presented, I was better. I was more effective. And it didn't come from the 497. It came from 2 that I read. Now, I will confess to you, I gave the dress away, because there's no way I could feel confident standing in front of a group of people presenting a workshop after that.
Right.
So criticism does make a difference, not necessarily in what you wear, but in what you do.
I would agree with that. We have time for one more question, and this connects back to the first story that you stated. You have said that employees will dare greater things if they know that they work for a manager who will take a bullet for them, right? However, how does a manager know when he or she has crossed the line between empowering and enabling?
I think, let me be clear about that principle. You should take the bullet for the employee once. If they continue to make, now we're all going to make different mistakes, I hope. But if they continue to make the same mistake, it tells you one of 2 things. Either they are unable to change their behavior, or they are unwilling to change their behavior, both of which would need to be addressed.